Welcome, everyone from around the state and the country. I am Janine Humber from AARP Massachusetts. Our event was featured on AARP's Virtual Community Center, so we are thrilled to have people joining us from so many different places. Today, we will learn about the 6 pillars of brain health. This is the first in a 7-part series as part of our November Caregiving Month. The 6 pillars of brain health is a lifestyle. Brain health can make a big difference in your well-being throughout your life, and it's within your power to make the daily choices that can get you there. AARP invites you to take a step along the path by learning about the 6 pillars that support brain health. These lifestyle habits include cultivating social connections, managing stress, getting high-quality sleep, and moving around more. These programs are recorded and made available on the AARP Massachusetts YouTube channel and will be sent via email after the event. These programs will educate you on a lot more of what AARP has to offer. AARP maintains a deep focus on the health, financial security, and personal fulfillment of people 50 and over and their families. And you'll find that reflected in our offerings and resources and in our advocacy. Across Massachusetts and all the way to Capitol Hill, AARP is leading the fight to the issues that matter most to you. We are working to strengthen Medicare, safeguard Social Security benefits, and champion the rights of older Americans. ARP is urging Congress to better support family caregivers, to make communities age-friendly and crack down on fraud. Thanks to our millions of members, we are winning the fight. In an historic victory, AARP led the change to new Medicare prescription drug reform. Starting January 1st, a new $2,000 cap on prescription drug costs will take effect, saving Medicare enrollees who reach the cap an average of $1,100 a year. Additionally, for the first time, Medicare will have authority to negotiate lower prices on select high-cost medications. And that's an enormous step, an enormous step for affordable health care. This is all great news for older Americans. You will want to bookmark your local AARP state page for AARP Massachusetts. It is aarp.org/MA. When we post about all of our events, our wins, and our calls to action, you can find out your local ARP news and information by going to aarp.org/local. This will help you stay informed. You can also find so many important local caregiving resources at aarp.org/caregivingma. I know that's a lot of information, and I will put some of the website I'll put the website address in the chat and hopefully you all will get it. And if not, please just email me. It is now, I'm going to hand it over to Sam Donanovich. I'm sorry, Sam, I pronounced your last name incorrectly.
That's quite all right. As long as you don't call me late for dinner, I'm go, Janine. So thank you everyone for joining today's webinar, 6 Pillars of Brain Health. This is one of my most favorite presentations to do. I do several for AARP, Massachusetts Speakers Bureau, and I am a volunteer. Volunteers in AARP, AARP runs on volunteers, just like Duncan runs on, or American runs on Duncan. And our volunteers are an integral part of our Speakers Bureau. I do 5 different presentations for the Speakers Bureau, and I get a lot of pleasure out of meeting people all across the Commonwealth of Massachusetts and bringing them really good information. This presentation also aligns really well with what I do in some of my other volunteer activities. I'm on the Hopkinton Council on Aging Board, and I work with our senior and older adult population, and brain health is definitely one of the issues on their minds. I'm part of an age-friendly and dementia-friendly initiative in the town of Hopkinton, and I conduct Dementia Friends information sessions, which is definitely all about how do you keep your brain healthy. So this presentation has a lot of meaning to me, and I hope you'll find it very interesting and informative, and then you can take a couple of tips away from it that you can use to improve your brain health, which will also improve your body health because it's really hard to separate brain and body. So first, we got to have a disclaimer. This session is informational and educational. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a medical expert. I don't even play one on TV. And before you engage in any type of diet or physical exercise program, you know who you need to get advice from, your physician or your other qualified healthcare provider. Don't go tomorrow and start lifting 50-pound weights with each hand because Sam said that lifting weights was a really good thing to do to improve your body and improve your brain. So always use your own discretion and get proper guidance from your professionals. So we always got to start with some good news. And the good news is, as the slide says, regardless of our age, there are things we can do to improve our brain health and which will also improve our body health, which will then improve our quality of life. So until recently, everyone thought that you were born with the brain pretty much fixed for your whole life. But what we found through new research is that your brain can develop new neurons. You can learn new things which improve your brain function. And it's only about 30% of who you are or who you're going to be is determined by your genetic makeup and what you had at birth. So that can be pretty exciting to people, right? Because now you have this awesome responsibility that your destiny, your future, your health is in your own hands. Well, as Spider-Man would say, with great responsibility, with great power comes great responsibility. And so, yes, we have the power. So better for worse, we are in control. So based on current brain research, some of it vetted by AARP's Global Council on Brain Health, and the work for AARP's online Staying Sharp program, we've identified 6 pillars of a lifestyle that support brain health. And I always got to make sure that I got my mouse on the right screen to change. There we go. So what are we going to talk about today? The 6 pillars of brain health. First is be social. I think we all know how important it is to stay socially engaged with friends and family. We know how hard it was to stay socially engaged during the pandemic and the damage that did to people's mental health, their physical health, whether you were older or look what happened to our kids in school who couldn't go to school. They really suffered. The second pillar is engaging your brain. You always really need to be learning and experiencing new things. That's really important. And we're going to go into each one of these, of course, in much more detail. Managing stress. Boy, stress is a killer. We know that. It's harmful to your brain and it's harmful to your body. Then we're going to go to ongoing exercise. What do you need to do every day to make sure you're keeping that engine, that machine that you have, your body, going as well as it can? And how does that brain help your body continue to stay in good shape? And how do you keep the brain in good shape too? Because it's really hard to just dissociate the body from the brain. Fifth pillar is restorative sleep. We all know how wonderful we feel after a good night's sleep and how terrible we feel when we have a hard time sleeping. And then the last is eating right. What are those good things we need to do to fuel our body and then fuel our brain? And if you'll notice that the first letter of each pillar, BEMORE, spells be more. So by following the 6 pillars of brain health recommendations, you can be more, you can be and have the best life you can possibly have. So why is brain health so important these days? Well, all of us are adding life to years. Think back, and my wife and I have this discussion all the time because we compare what we're doing. I'm 72, my wife is 68, and what we're doing at our age is far different than what her parents were doing at the same age. And we're very engaged in our community. So you want to add life to years. And that the only way you can do that is by keeping your body in good shape and keeping your brain in good shape. And the longer people live, the risk of cognitive decline increases. It's amazing. I do another presentation, Social Security benefits presentation, And I learned that 100 years ago, life expectancy for a man was 56 years and for a woman was 58.5 years. In 2023, the life expectancy for both sexes has increased by more than 25 years. So we definitely want to be in really good shape to enjoy all these years. Another important trend is people are rethinking retirement. Many of us are still working. My wife still works in retirement. I've decided not to work where I get paid, at least not in money, but I do so much in retirement from a volunteer perspective with the three organizations I already mentioned. And so I want my brain and my body to be in really good shape so I can do these things in retirement. We all know that that healthcare costs are skyrocketing. This gives us an increased incentive to stay as healthy as we can for as long as we can so we can avoid all those co-payments and all those doctor visits. And finally, current brain research shows that we can grow new brain cells throughout our life, which is something, as I said in that prior slide, that people didn't think 10, 20, 30 years ago. So a brain healthy lifestyle can optimize our chances of maintaining really good cognitive health. First pillar is being social. Studies have suggested that people who have good social networks live longer and are mentally more healthy. They definitely have a better time. I mean, I know the fun I have in retirement with all the activities I do in my retirement that I wasn't able to do when I worked full time. So let's get into some of them. So you need to stay socially engaged, to stay engaged with friends and family and your community. In 2020, a National Academy of Sciences, Engineering, and Medical study found that social isolation can lead to loneliness in some people, while others can feel lonely without feeling socially isolated. It also found that there are health risks associated with loneliness. A quite serious health risk is that social isolation was associated with about a 50% increase of dementia. Why? Because when you stay socially engaged, that exercises our brain and helps us keep sharp. It helps that brain build new brain connections, new neuron connections, which are really important to keeping the demon of dementia away. So avoiding isolation, staying connected is really important. Before we get into some more tips, we're going to give you a chance to share as long as chat is working. Janine, do you think we got chat working for everybody? We'll
Yes,
find
I do
out.
believe it's working. I was just getting ready to send a little message.
Okay, so
I
I have a
would love for
question.
someone to check it for
Well,
us.
hopefully they're going to check it by telling
Okay,
us, how are you staying socially engaged?
yes,
One of the fun things about this presentation and doing them either in person or on Zoom is I get to hear all about the cool things you are doing to stay socially engaged. There we got some new messages. Yes, it is now working. Okay, we got
amen.
people from other places. Yeah, so what are you doing to stay socially engaged? Give us some of your best practice, what you do that you really find fun and rewarding, and maybe somebody else on the call will pick that up. Rock and roll dancing twice weekly, that's great. Oh, here we have another volunteer or maybe a paid person teaching AARP driver safety classes. It's pretty cool.
That is cool.
AARP classes, ice skating and skiing, meet friends for lunch. Anything else that people can recommend on what they're doing to stay socially engaged? Book clubs at the library? Yeah, absolutely. Pickleball and rowing on Charles River. Now, I know you don't play pickleball on the Charles River. I play a lot of pickleball. That's a little bad joke, but yeah, rowing on the Charles, coloring, and book clubs at local libraries, taking a class. Yep, there are just so many ways to stay socially engaged. So let's see what some of the tips are from AARP. See if we've not covered these. Join a club or participate in sports. I started playing pickleball after I retired and I didn't have to travel all over the United States. I had a job where I traveled a lot on business. Um, I joined a book club. Absolutely. I joined a book club at our senior center and another one at the library. Attending community events. One of the things that I discovered is how many communities have a facility like we have in Hopkinton. We have the Hopkinton Center for the Arts. There's events at our Hopkinton Library. And most of these are free. I also I'm a big reader, and one of our local booksellers is run by a very well-known author of a children's series, and he has a lot of connections in the literary world. And so we get really, really good author talks. I just went to one a couple of weeks ago for Kate Quinn, which was really great. I got to sit in the first row, and I got to meet her personally, so I really like her historical fiction. Consider adopting a pet or pet sitting. We don't have a pet, but we do walk and baby and pet sit for a nice English Springer Spaniel, a real properly groomed one. That's a dog that's owned by one of my wife's friends. And volunteers. You can volunteer with a local group like your church, a library, your senior center, or with AARP. And AARP also has a lot of ways to volunteer virtually. So you don't have to copy down these URLs. You're going to have access to this handout afterwards. You'll get a link. You'll get a link to the recording, and you'll also get not only a list of AARP resources, but you'll also get 4 handouts that'll give you additional good information about how to maintain good brain health. So yeah, create the good volunteer opportunities. A lot of them can be done virtually. Virtual Community Center, and the one that I really like the best is AARP Friendly Voice. So if you have a friend of yours who might be more home-ridden, maybe they have mobility issues or they can't get out because they don't have transportation, AARP has a service where you can call and request a call to your friend. And those calls can be done in English or in Spanish. And it could be just the thing your friend needs to, take them out of their doldrums and give them a smile or two each day. So let's talk about engaging your brain, discovering and learning new things. Studies have shown the positive effects of challenging the brain in new ways throughout our life. Our brain is stimulated and makes new connections, as I said, when we learn new things or pursue new interests. So learning new things, you got to stay curious. Give yourself a good mental workout by doing something differently. This is really, really important. So if you're like crossword puzzles, maybe do other puzzles. My wife and I have a little routine every morning. Um, we do Wordle, which is a word game. I do Connections, which is a word game. I do a mini crossword puzzle. And these are all available on the New York Times website. There's an app actually that you can download to your phone or your iPad, and they're all free. These are all free. You can pay and have a subscription, but I like doing the free ones. When I first got involved in my town's age and dementia-friendly community initiative, I read about a study that I'd like to talk about for a minute or two that really highlights the importance of doing new things as you age and as your brain ages. It's a study of nuns. These nuns ran a facility that had living from assisted living to memory care, then to a nursing home care, and then to hospice. And what started to be evident that these nuns had a very, very low incident of any type of cognitive decline, of any type of cognitive brain disease, such as dementia. So they were studied, and what they found is that the nuns changed their jobs every 5 years. So you could be the head of the facility for 5 years, and then you might be the head of the gift store, or the head of the transportation, or the head of the uh, the cafeteria, or you might just be working in one of those. And because they were changing their jobs every 5 years and learning new things, their brains developed actually new neural connections. So after the nuns passed, they did the autopsy and they looked at their brains to look for the signs of dementia, those amyloid plaques and other things that show in the brain. And they did find those, but they also found all these new synaptic connections, showing how important it is to learn new things. So now let's share your tips. You can share your tips. Love Wordle. Yeah, I like Wordle too. My wife's a Wordle expert. She loves sometimes when you'll get the first Wordle and you'll have like 3 yellow or orange things, which means they're the right letters, not in the right order. And then the second chance she gets the word completely. So what do you do to learn new things? What do you do to challenge your brain? Reading is a great one. Absolutely. I like to read so many different types of books. I read novels. I also read historical fiction or history. Signed up to learn French. Yes, that will definitely challenge your brain. Learning a language. What else do you do? What other tips you can share? So maybe one of the attendees will say, that sounds interesting. I'll try it. Playing piano. Yeah, taking classes at a local university language. We have a really good VOTEC school pretty close to where I live in Massachusetts, and they offer all kinds of classes, very practical classes too. You can learn Excel or PowerPoint or photography and car repair and just a bunch of fun things. Exercise, volunteer with literations at an elementary school, food bank involved. Boy, it sounds like you're like me. You might have to retire from your retirement of being a volunteer. You do so much. So let's see what else AARP recommends and if there's anything we're missing. Take or teach a class. You know, it's interesting. Many of us may not think that we have a skill, but I bet we have a skill that somebody else might like to learn, like photography or writing. I have several friends who've joined a writing group together, which they really enjoy. Learn a new language, yep, dance or musical instrument. Dancing I like. Not that I'm a good dancer, but dancing also gives you exercise, right? So that's what I call a twofer. You exercise your brain and you can also dance. Trying complex arts or crafts. I decided to build models again. I haven't built a plastic model since I was probably 16 years old. But I decided to, when my retirement party, my kids gave me a couple models and I bought paint and had a really good time putting them together. And now I'm starting to build some of these little complex metal models when you need little fine tools and a magnifier, but it's really fun to do and it really challenges your skills. Play challenging card or board games. Absolutely. The key to this is doing something differently. And there's so many opportunities we have. I had in one of the sessions I did in person, I had a woman who said, I'd like to get my husband to do more. He's kind of sedentary in retirement. And so we were brainstorming on how to get that person engaged. And I thought one of the best things, and she thought something she was going to recommend, is getting a friend who does something like play chess in this example, or play pickleball, stop by and try to entice her husband to get interested in it, trying to find some spark. Because you're only going to do things that you like, and sometimes you need friends to help you break that barrier you have about getting into something new. Pillar number 3, managing stress. Boy, this is so important. I think it's important during all times. And we always say the times we're living in right now are the most difficult and turbulent times, but I think times have always been turbulent. But studies have shown what a killer not managing stress can be. So what can we do to reduce stress? Exercise regularly. This relieves the mental and the physical aspects of stress. You can walk in the mall during bad weather or outside in better weather. Boy, any of you who are on the East Coast, at least in Massachusetts today, it was a phenomenal November day. It hit 60 degrees, the sky was blue, the sun was out. I played pickleball from 2 to 2:30, and it was almost hot. And so I decided to take advantage of every bit of that last nice day we might have in the Northeast. Smile and laugh. I live with a laugher, and her laughter, sometimes when she's talking to her girlfriends on the phone, I think they're speaking a different language. They're speaking a laughing language because I don't hear many like English words. It's just mostly laughing. But she laughs, and it's really good. When you go into a room and you smile, what happens? The people in the room smile back at you. I have a 3-year-old granddaughter, and when she's in a pouty mood, I say to her, Maddie, you look so much prettier when you're smiling. And then I get a smile out of her, and your face lights up, her face lights up. And when you smile and laugh, you release hormones and brain chemicals, which help to balance the effect of stress. This can be so simple, but so positive. You can also distract yourself with music and reading. I can get into a book. TV doesn't do much for me. I do like watching some shows and movies, but I find a book really gets me into the book and I forget about the rest of my life. And the same thing with music. And one of my most favorites is being outside. I'm an avid hiker. I'm doing the 48, 4,000-foot peaks in New Hampshire. And it's just so important to get outside. To me, nothing is better than getting out and just being quiet. I don't listen to music when I hike. I don't have any earbuds in. You're out there in the woods. You might hear a bird or a squirrel. When the leaves are falling down, you can hear them. And now we're getting ready to get some snow in the mountains. So now you get another chance to share. And I see people are already sharing. Someone said meditate daily, but what are your tips? What do you do to manage stress? I did an in-person workshop on this title last week, and one of the persons who was in the meeting said, I just worry too much. And I had a really good quote for her that somebody else gave me at another session. Worrying is like a rocking chair. It gives you something to do, but it gets you nowhere. Yep, worry does nobody any good, but we got to figure out a way to deal with our worries. Breath exercises and yoga, yep. Shopping and cooking. I like the cooking part. I'm not much of a shopper. Guizhong, which must be a game, maybe like mahjong. Pet my cat. Yeah, isn't that just so nice? Cats are just great. Dogs are great in one way, and cats are great in the other, especially if you have a cat that will allow you to pet them. Work outside. Being in your garden, being outside doing work. My wife doesn't really like to go outside, so I'm really the landscaper and the person who takes care of the property. And I like that. It's to me, working outside and cleaning up your yard is kind of like vacuuming. I like vacuuming. Oh, a Qigong is not a game, it's a form of Tai Chi. Thank you for that. Yeah, I like vacuuming because it's a simple thing you do that takes a dirty thing like a carpet and makes it clean, and you feel so good about it. So let's see, what are some other tips from AARP on managing stress? Confiding in friends. I have a couple friends I don't get to see all the time because they live far away. I call them. Telling your story, blowing steam always makes you better. Sometimes your friend can give you some good advice or maybe just a verbal hug. Being silent and still. Yeah, that's sometimes very hard for people to do. It's very hard for me to do. I'm a very go-go person. But I do find that when I feel stressed, I can sit in a dark room or room with low lights on and maybe have some nice jazz on, some quiet jazz, and just try to close my eyes and just reflect and quiet my brain. I don't meditate, but maybe I should. It's very important to take stretch breaks too, especially for those of you who spend a lot of time on your iPad or on your laptop. You really have to limit screen time. You got to give your mind regular moments of rest. What I like about my smartwatch, I don't have an Apple Watch, I just have a Fitbit, but it reminds me every hour to move. If I don't move by 50 after the hour, it starts beeping at me. Deep breathing, yeah, that can really calm you, and it's also the doses of oxygen are really good for the brain. I have a couple of minute video that I think you'll find very entertaining. There we go.
What makes you laugh the most? My stepdaughters, but I find that they're laughing at me and not with me.
Laughter. It's universal. The dictionary calls it an expression of emotion with an explosive vocal sound. But it's so much more than that. Humor and our ability to laugh add depth to our daily life. It engages various brain networks, including those that process information and search for patterns. What can you do to bring more laughter to your life? Talk with friends about fun memories. Learn to laugh at yourself. See how laughter may also be good for your brain health.
So I got a message from Janine saying, are you showing a video? Did everyone see a video or did anyone see a video? Can you put that in the chat? They saw it. So maybe Janine, it's just you. Yep, they saw the video. Okay, good. So we might having a little bit of technical problems, but nothing we can't. I really like that video because boy, it's so much fun to laugh at yourself. One of the things I found so invigorating is playing with my granddaughter, who taught me how to laugh again. My granddaughter will be 3 in January, and just playing with little kids, because to little kids, the world is all new. Everything about the world is new and exciting. I mean, I could take my granddaughter out for a walk, and sometimes we don't even get 100 feet from the house. When the dandelions were blooming in New England and all the little white things were floating, we found a neighbor's lawn, and she picked every dandelion and blew the seeds off. And one time we followed ants, and boy, that made me laugh and made me quiet, and it really did a lot to reduce my stress level.
What makes you laugh?
Up, we're going backwards in time. We don't want to do that. Let's go forward. Forward.
My stepdaughters.
I'm going to
But I
manually
find that
go
they're
by
laughing
this.
at me.
There we go. Pillar number 4, ongoing exercise. So important. You don't have to be a marathon runner. You just need to move. We know that exercising can sometimes be a chore. I try to exercise 5 days a week. Of the 7 days, I usually take the weekend off, and if I'm playing pickleball, I count that as my exercise for the day. But some days when I'm doing my calisthenics or my weights, I really don't want to do them. I really don't want to do them. But I know when I start and push myself, I always feel better at the end. Think of your body as a car. Say you had the best car in the world, a $300,000 Rolls Royce, the nicest tires, nicest interior paint, leather, chrome, wood, all the beautiful things, and you took this beautiful car and you stuck it in a garage and you didn't run it. What would happen to that beautiful car? Tires would go flat, the rubber would crack, the oil would go bad, water would condense in your gas system, you wouldn't be able to start the car, the leather would eventually crack, the rubber gaskets would crack because they haven't been cleaned and lubricated. So the best car will crack if you're not taking care of it. And think of your body as your own personal Rolls Royce. So we certainly want to take care of it. So what do you have to do? Well, you have to get at least 150 minutes of exercise each week. 30 minutes a day is a good start. Walking is a good start. I like to think of ways to get some exercise while doing your daily routine. So what could you do? Well, if you go to a building, seeing a doctor or a friend in an apartment building, walk the stairs instead of the elevator. But going up, I have one of my friends lives in an apartment and it's 5 floors up, and I take the stairway. And boy, 5 flights of stairs, that'll get your heart pumping. When I'm shopping, I like to park my car as far away from the door as humanly possible. Humanly possible. Well, I don't like door dings, so I like to park it where nobody parks, but then you get more steps, right? So always try to get some exercise out of your normal work. So one of the things that I get a lot of exercise out of in my normal daily routine is cleaning the bathroom. To me, cleaning the bathroom is an aerobic activity, especially when you have to go in there. We have a tile shower with glass, and if you don't clean it as regularly maybe as you should, you got to get in there and really give it a good scrubbing. Boy, that's good aerobic activity. So this physical activity helps repair and protect brain chemicals. It's those endorphins that are released. You always feel warmer. I mean, the best thing you can do when you're cold in the winter is get up and move, right? Do something. It also reduces anxiety and improves sleep. I sleep really well after I go on a nice long 15, 20-mile hike. It's hard for me to be anxious when I'm exercising or after because I just feel so charged up and so good. And when you get that body going, it helps the brain, and it also reduces the risks of all these other diseases, heart disease and diabetes and depression and stroke. Now, before you start an exercise program, please consult with your doctor or your healthcare provider to really craft the program that's right for you. Now, I play pickleball, And there's many, many articles written about pickleballers who go start playing because they saw their friend play. And then they say, oh, this is fun. I should play more. And then they wind up playing 5 days a week and then sometimes twice a day. And before you know it, you have an overuse injury because you haven't stretched and you haven't warmed your body up. So make sure you approach it the proper way. Start slow. I still remember when I was 30 years old, a million years ago. I was married 2 years. My wife was a great cook. I started putting on a little weight, a little weight, a little weight here. And I decided to start running. And I remember the first time I ran, I could go like 100 yards. And before I know it, I was running half marathons. Well, not so quickly, but within a year. But start small and build up. So what are some of your tips? What are some of the things that you do to move and get exercise? Let's put those in the chat. Water aerobics, treadmill. Love the AARP fitness offerings. Yeah, there's so much available. I did this presentation on Zoom a couple of months ago, and a person said there was so many YouTube videos that they watch that involves different stretching exercises and balancing exercises, and all of it was free. Another plug for AARP classes: yoga, walking, Zumba. Yeah, there was, I saw there was on one of our local shows, it's called Chronicle. They went to a Zumba instructor and followed her through her classes, which was really fun. Oh, I like walk up to my 15th floor if I am empty-handed. Play tennis and pickleball and walk 5 to 7 miles a day. Okay, I mean, you guys are just awesome. Community gym at my apartment complex. So a lot of good suggestions. And it's just so important to get moving because, I mean, all of us probably know somebody who is not active. I have some relatives who aren't active. They're younger than me. And you know what happens when you're not active? You may eat a little bit more. You may put a little bit more weight on. That stops you from wanting to do some exercise. And then, it starts that deadly cycle. And before you know it, you get more and more sedentary, which is worse. And then that machine, that engine, that's your body just breaks down. Yeah, cutting grass with a push mower. That's my person. I was going to say that's my man, but I want to be cognizant to everyone who pushes a push mower for their half-acre yard. Absolutely. Walking, dancing, running, biking, strength training, yoga, tai chi. So much, right? So much that you can do to get exercise. And it's so important that you have balance in your exercise, because I always like to tell people that exercise really has four components, right? You want to be flexible. That's really important. You want to stay flexible, so you have to do some stretching. You want exercise that's aerobic. Walking can be good, but it may build stamina, but maybe you should go walk a little faster. I used to run, like I said. I can't run anymore. I have two new knees, but I can power walk. So I get out there 2 times a week and I'll power walk 5 miles, and if I'm feeling good that day and the weather's nice, I can get down to just about a 12-minute pace walking, and my heart rate definitely comes up. Then you need something to do to strengthen your body. If you have no upper body strength, you got to work on, even with little weights. A lot of people use weights while they walk. So those are the four corners of an exercise program. And make sure you're not just doing something just like walking and ignoring aerobic and stretching and flexibility and strength. So now let's get to number 5, restorative sleep. Sleep restores the brain, flushes out toxins and all that bad stuff. It's really important to good cognitive function and brain health. All of us have experienced the differences between having a good night's sleep and not having one. Both can impact you negatively for days. And some things you can do for a good night's sleep. Well, first, avoid caffeine beginning after lunch. Some people are very, very susceptible to caffeine. My wife is one of them. If she has a Diet Coke with caffeine in it, at 3 or 4 o'clock in the afternoon, she'll have a hard time going to sleep. Caffeine doesn't bother me as much. I remember with caffeine, there's many things that you don't think have caffeine in them that do. Tea has caffeine, probably by about half as much as coffee. Many sodas and drinks have caffeine. You'll be surprised. I got into really, really reading the labels of things, and we'll go into that a little bit more when we get into the eating pillar. If you haven't stopped smoking, don't smoke and avoid all nicotine 4 to 6 hours before going to bed. And also avoid alcohol before bedtime. I know the toll that alcohol can take on your sleep. So if I go out to dinner and I have a glass of wine, and then I come, we have dinner with friends and we go to their house and we're chatting, and then we come home and I go to sleep 4 hours later, I can sleep fine. But if I go to the friend's house afterwards and I have a second glass of wine or, some bourbon or a beer or whatever, it impacts my sleep cycle terribly. I have my smartwatch monitors my sleep cycle, and I can see the next morning that my heart rate was elevated, my oxygen intake was not adequate, and I can see it visually. So I've really learned to moderate my alcohol consumption. So before we get into the AARP recommendations for what you can do to sleep better, what are your tips on what you do to sleep better? And I'll put those 4 tips into the chat later on. I see Donna F. wanted me to repeat that. So what do you do to sleep better? What are your secrets to sleeping better? You have a couple of people who do not sleep well. Blackout curtains. Yeah, absolutely. Some people are very susceptible to light, a very dark bedroom. Try to go to bed at the same time every night. Boy, that was really hard for me. It's a great tip. It was really hard for me to do when I was working. Because like I said, I traveled a lot on business, and then I would come home for the weekend, and I wanted to do things with my wife and do things with my kids. Watch movies. So we're going to talk a little bit more about screens and what when you should shut screen usage off. But watching movies, yeah, just don't watch anything that's super scary or something that's going to put you on edge. Any other tips on what you do to get a better night's sleep or a good night's sleep? Mindfulness and meditation app, absolutely. Drink chamomile tea. I've heard that one before. Herbal teas are great. Chamomile, I really like. Okay, so let's see what AARP recommends. I have 2 slides on this. So the first, you got to get enough sleep. Adults need 7 to 8 hours of sleep in a 24-hour period. Don't need those hours consecutively. Sometimes you're a good napper, or some people are a good napper. My wife is a power napper. She learned this from her mother. She still tells me the stories of coming home from school. And for all of you of my age, late 60s, early 70s, you remember coming home from school and changing your play clothes, and your mother kicked you out of the house, locked the door, and said, "Come back at dinner time." And my wife's mother, when she did that, would then go take a nap, and it's really rubbed off on my wife. She's a power napper. She can go to sleep within 10 seconds. Practice good sleep techniques. Yep, you got to definitely have a regular sleep-wake cycle. And boy, wasn't our sleep-wake cycles thrown off by setting the clocks back? And it's really important to expose yourself to outdoor light during the day. Why? Because the outdoor light helps your body maintain the right biorhythms, the right circadian rhythms to distinguish between nighttime and daytime. You need to reset that clock every day by exposing yourself to outdoor light. Do you know people, I do, who are pretty sedentary, they watch a lot of TV, and they start having this strange sleep cycle, like they stay up to 3, 4 in the morning. And then they sleep till noon or 1. And that's because they're not getting any outside light. And one thing that's definitely certain is that sleep changes as we get older. You may go to sleep earlier, you may get up earlier, but you still need to get the right amount of sleep. So we got some other tips here, and I think one of the best ones I see, besides don't watch TV in your room, is switch to a boring book. That's a funny one because I have a good friend of mine who thinks he's a reader, but he really only uses books to put himself to sleep. So he'll be reading a book, and I'll ask him, how's the book? He says, "Oh, it's really good. I've gotten 6 good nights' sleeps out of this book so far." So he opens his book up, and 3 pages later, he's out. Adjust caffeine intake. We talked about that. Check the labels. Keep pets. This is an interesting one. So many people love their pets that they have their pets in their bedroom. Now, that could be good if your pet, like my wife's friend's dog that we dog sit, who sleeps really nicely on their dog bed, doesn't get up, doesn't make sounds, and sleeps in past 7 in the morning. But if you have pets that whine when the sun comes up or jump on your bed and disturb you, keep those pets out. You may love them, but maybe they're not good for your sleep. Restrict fluids and food 3 hours before going to bed. Sometimes it's so hard to do that. Of course, in our society today, everyone walks around all the time with like a gallon of water at their disposal all the time. Maybe put that gallon of water away 3 hours, unless you want to get up several times during the night. And keep your smartphones, TV, and electronics out of your bedroom. Definitely, you don't want that screen. That blue light from the TV screen or your laptop screen will not help you set your brain into sleep mode. And then one thing that's not on the slide, but I firmly believe in, and so does research. Research has shown that most people sleep best when the room is between 60 to 67 degrees. In my house in the winter, my thermostat is set to 60. It saves on heating costs. And I figured out how to sleep with somebody who doesn't like it at that temperature. I got my wife a personal size electric blanket. It's literally, the size, not even a single bed size, smaller than that. Then she has it on her side of the bed, and she can get her side of the bed up to 2 or 3 thousand degrees, and I can have my side of the bed cool because the room thermostat is set as 60. Good night's sleep, so important. Okay, we're entering in the home stretch now. We're getting into pillar number 6, eat right. Eating right has a big impact on your brain, also has a big impact on your body. And there's been no research done on a specific diet that's been good for everybody, but there are some good diets that you might find helpful. But again, before starting any new diet, who do you consult? Your doctor, your medical advisor. We need to eat less meat and sweets. Absolutely. I've really cut back on my red meat, and I love sweets. But I moderate my sweets, just like I do my alcohol. I have a little bit of alcohol on the weekend, nothing during the week, and I don't have dessert during the week. If any of you live with somebody who has what we call a red flag sweet food, like my wife has cookies, we may bring cookies into our house, like double stuffed Oreos or pinwheels, those marshmallowy things with the chocolate on the cookie, but I hide them. And then I dole them out 2 or 3 at a time for Oreos and one with the pinwheels. So some of the diets that have been found to be helpful is the Mediterranean diet, another diet called DASH, Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension diet. And then there's a combo of the two. Mediterranean diet is the one that many of my friends are on. I've learned how to diet not from what I eat perspective, but how much I eat. I gained some weight about 10 years ago, put on, that half pound a year. And then I went on Weight Watchers, which I liked a lot because Weight Watchers doesn't sell you food. It teaches you how to eat because food has points. And so you can have so many points per day. So I can still have a steak and a potato, but I can have so many ounces of meat and so many ounces of a baked potato. And I can't slather it with butter or sour cream. You got to use other spices on it. So consuming less meat and sweets, we know that. Eating fish and seafood. I don't particularly like sardines, which really has good oils in it, but I eat a fair amount of salmon. Nuts are always better snacks than sweets or those treats that are high in salt and fats. And I got a good handle on reading labels. And I also try to stay away from any food that has all those dyes in it, red dye number 2 and yellow dye number 6 and all that synthetic stuff, because that's just not doing your body any good. Put grains in your bread are really important. Now, when I buy bread, that's another exercise of reading the label very, very carefully. So when I buy a loaf of bread, I look at the saturated fat content because I don't like saturated fat because I don't have a cholesterol problem. I managed to control it through diet. I look at how much salt it has in it and how much sugar it has in it. Haven't found the perfect bread, but I try to balance those factors to find the most healthy bread. Beans. Beans are really good. They're high in protein. They're less expensive than meat. You can make some really good soups out of beans. Leafy green vegetables. Just be careful how you cook them. Don't cook them. Now, I grew up on a farm, and still, even a farm woman's wife, my mom, cooked our green vegetables to smithereens. And olive oil. I've really given up using butter, but I use olive oil. That's a good fat. Trans fats are bad. Saturated fats are bad. So read the labels. So what do you do to eat as part of a brain healthy diet? We already got some good suggestions coming through. A boneless, skinless, smoked brand, which isn't too bad. I like a sardine, that's not too bad. So that could be a compliment, right? Wild grain bread. What else do you do? Gluten-free. Yeah, my daughter-in-law has to be gluten-free. And she's trying to convince other people to eat gluten-free. I'm not gluten-free, but I try to minimize my gluten. And it is amazing how many gluten-free things are very tasty. So what else do you do to eat well as part of a brain healthy diet? Portion control. Yeah, I learned that through Weight Watchers. I had my 30 points a day. Sure, I could drink beer and eat potato chips and use up my 30 points, but I didn't. And then when I ate a dinner, I could manage my portions. And now I've been Weight Watchers for life for 8 years. No McDonald's, read the labels, oatmeal, barley, and quinoa, veggies, lots of veggies. We've given up on carbs, actually. My wife will have like a piece of fish and then two veggies or veggies and a fruit. So there's a lot of good tips. Black coffee, no sugar. So what else do we have? Kale, spinach, and broccoli. Yep, I love those. Just make sure you don't do what a friend of mine does who puts, you'll probably cringe on this, mayo on his broccoli. Yeah, farmer's market. My wife and I joined the farm share. Um, we've done this for several years in a row. We're not doing a winter farm share. Last year we did, but we did a summer farm share. And it was so nice to get these really great vegetables every week and some new vegetables that I've never cooked with. And then I can expand my repertoire. Whole berries. I love berries. They're very expensive. I usually wait for them to go on sale, the 2-for-1 sale. Vinegar, lemon, and herbs, spices instead of salt, and sugar and butter. We already talked about salmon and sardines and walnuts and almonds. Yeah. In this day and age, with everything, I like that last suggestion. I don't use big dinner plates, use smaller ones. That's right. Sometimes it's a psychological aspect. So before we conclude, still have a couple of tips for you. So here are some risks or threats to brain health, and I think the ones I'm going to talk about are depression and hearing and vision loss. Why? Because depression doubles the risk for cognitive decline and is a risk factor for cognitive diseases like dementia. Why? Well, first of all, depression is not a normal part of aging, and neither is cognitive decline. But if you are depressed, you're going to be less socially engaged. You're probably going to get less exercise. You're probably not going to be challenging your brain. You're probably not going to be eating well or sleeping well. So depression is probably like this cornerstone upon which a whole series of bad things can happen. Same thing with vision and hearing loss. Vision and hearing loss can be linked to trouble with thinking and memory. The same issue. If you can't hear, you're not getting auditory stimulation into your brain. If you're having vision issues, if you're visually impaired and you haven't corrected your vision, you're not taking in all that visual input that stimulates your brain. So make sure that you are also mindful of some of these risks and threats. Tips for improving a memory. Routines are very important, but the ones I want to talk about are paying attention. So many of you can probably remember or identify with this scenario. You're in your house and you are going to your bedroom to get a book. And you walk down the hall, you walk up the stairs, whatever, and you get to your bedroom to get the book and you forgot why you were there. Probably not that you're suffering from early dementia, but you probably weren't paying attention because your mind was trying to multitask. My problem. When I'm going down the hallway to get a book, I'm thinking, Man, what am I going to cook for dinner? I probably should put the clothes in the dryer. When's my next ARP presentation? Maybe I can make sure I have enough handouts for it. What about the checkbook? What about that check that I have to get? Blah, 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 blah. And I'm just not focusing. The other thing I'd like to call out is how we can use calendars, reminders, and alarms to help us as our brain normally ages. I have on my iPhone, I have 47 different folders. You know, your friends tell you about a good book. I put it in my notes books to read. Your friends tell you about a good movie. I put it in my movie list. I don't try to remember it. If I go to a restaurant, there's a nice bottle of wine on the table I want to remember, I take a picture of it. So there's a lot of ways we can use technology to help. So instead of that, I'm going to show you a little video in the perfect day, and that will help us wrap up.
Everyone's days are different, but let's have a look at what a day in the life of a
Oops, sorry.
healthy
Can't click on
brain
that screen.
might look like. 7 a.m. You wake naturally, feeling well rested because your brain spent the night organizing experiences, strengthening memories, and power washing all the toxins that built up throughout the day yesterday. 7:30 a.m. Time to tee up a productive day with a healthy breakfast. Think oatmeal, berries, and maybe some flax seeds sprinkled on top. Your body
Oh, sorry.
gets started converting this to glucose, which will act as fuel for your brain. Breakfast fuels you for the creative projects, hobbies, or work that await you. 12 p.m. You are ready to nourish your brain and body. A lunch with a lean protein, whole grains, nuts, fruits, and vegetables helps to keep your brain and body healthy. 1 p.m. Fresh air is calling. A brisk walk helps digestion and clears the mind for the rest of the day. Regular exercise supports your thinking and memory. 5 p.m. Meet up with friends for dinner. Keeping up social connections is great for maintaining a healthy brain. Laughter can even trigger the release of endorphins. 7 p.m. Winding down with meditation or yoga can help with transitioning to bedtime and quiets the day's worth of thoughts that often race through your mind. 10 p.m. It's time to go all in on your bedtime routine. Preparing the same way around the same time every night may support a solid evening of sleep. It's a long day for your brain. Giving it everything it needs, including exercise, stimulation, nutrition, and of course, plenty of rest, can keep it functioning healthily as you age. Everyone's days are different, but
So, in conclusion, you're going to get a link to the recording. You're going to get the handouts. But based on what you learned today, pick out one or two things that you think, those are things I'm not doing and I might want to start doing. So start small, write them down, have somebody keep you responsible to your own plan. And with that, I'm going to conclude the webinar. Thank you for joining today and look forward to seeing you on other AARP webinars in the future.
Thank you very much, Sam. Very good.
So Janine, you can close the webinar. Or I can do that.